our follow-up from NRF, our NRF recap, what we learned at NRF, AI, and a few other things. So I'm Greg Busick. So I'm going to gloat a little bit. So Matt Luque, if you're on the call and you gave me grief for wearing this at Super Saturday, I'm wearing this just for you. So
oh boy,
tell us where you're from.
The chat just fell off.
The chat is active. The chat is active, and I was blessed to be there with my son, thanks to the generosity of a friend. So, but that is cool. So we're going to get started. The chat is active. Tell us where you're from, who you're rooting for in the Super Bowl. Is your team in it, not in it? Do you think Patrick Mahomes is getting the calls from the ref? Do you think it's you can talk about that. We'll talk about Deepseek and all the AI stuff as we get forward here as part of this, but the chat is there. And there's also a bunch of handouts. Our editorial calendar is there. Our latest advisory stuff is there. So on the handouts, if you click to the right of the handouts, you'll see all of those, as well as we're going to talk about ClearSight AI in this, which is our new offering to companies to help them organize their thoughts around AI. So with that, we also have a new research report that is available right now for free on the site. Jeff, can you turn your mic down a little bit? I think you're a little hype. Somebody's a little hot. That is available to you. It's what winning SMB retailers do differently. We did that with Epicor. Gosh, I think we sent this out to 8,000 SMB retailers there to get answers. It is a pretty comprehensive study about the SMB space, and it's yours for free there on the website. So with that, I wanted to bring to your attention, hey, we've got some upcoming multi-client opportunities with webinars, if that's of interest to you. The returns, one, I think, let me put that in the handout. The prospectus for that is in the handouts, and that's coming up here in late February. Then we've got optimizing retail store fulfillment. 83% of all sales in retail now still go through the stores, even though there's a lot of e-commerce happening. Then the role of in-store robotics we're going to be doing, and then a better approach to loss prevention, which is a different way of doing things other than just locking stuff up at the retail store, and the negative of that. We've got some things on that. So with that, we are going to turn the cameras off, and we're going to get into a little bit of economic stuff, and then we'll have the cameras come back on as we get forward. So this first part is just an international update for things. Not going to spend a ton of time on this, but a couple things to highlight is the fact that when you add inflation to this, we're hovering just about the same as where we are in the U.S., up maybe 1-2%, with the exception of Vietnam and Brazil, which are the stars for what's going on globally in terms of retail growth there. So when you look at things here, China at 3.7%, although their inflation is negative, generally they need to be around 6% to have a growing e-commerce based on the population growth there. So generally it's struggling. UK is getting a little better. Germany's getting a little worse. But around the globe, things are quite similar to what we're seeing in the United States. In the U.S., inflation adjusted for the year, we were up about 1.2% overall. Convenience and gas was slightly up, which is really interesting when you consider that gas prices were lower. The guys that got hit heavy were department stores and specialty hard goods there, and your traditional drug stores in place there. So that kind of gives you a level set of where we are. Overall, holiday sales were up 3.8%. Once again, when you're looking at about 3%, 3.2% inflation, we were up a little bit, 0.6%. Overall, continue to grow there, which is incredible when you figure we added in 2021, we added India's retail sales as growth in the United States. In 22, we added the UK, and in 23, we added Poland to still grow for the year and still have an upside in retail sales when all of the pandemic money is gone, is still a positive for retail. So let's look at specific categories here. I'm just going to race through this so we can get to the NRF stuff, but you have it in the deck. We will share the slides at the end of the webinar here. So you'll have access to the slides here so you can go through this, but it shows the categories. The most encouraging piece was to see that furniture and electronics came back a little bit there. But the most discouraging piece is really the buy now, pay later piece is up considerably. And you're seeing quite a bit of debt now hitting consumers as we come into 2025. Inflation, according to Truflation, is at 2.62%, up slightly from where we were just a week ago. There, change in administrations, that always tends to happen with things as things move forward here. So overall, the government is saying we've got 2.9% overall inflation, 3.2 if you go take out food and energy, which, why would you take out food and energy? Those are the two things that everybody needs. They got to heat their house or drive, or they got to feed their family. I've never quite understood that, but yeah, it's a little bit higher when you look at those things. Gas prices are up about 50% from where they were a couple months ago. But down from where we were a year ago. We were right about the same as we are today. So the reason this is important is every 2 cents sustained one direction or another is another $1 billion that consumers have to spend in different things. So with that, we'll bring the cameras back on, and Jeff loves this chart in particular here on gas prices being out in California. Isn't that right, Jeff? Uh-oh. We lost it. No, his mic's on. Uh-oh. That was a mistake. We should have never taken you guys off stage. There he is.
Oh, there he is.
No, your mic's not on, Jeff. Sorry.
What?
That was a mistake. Lee and Jerry, if you guys want to come back on, you can do that. Add your cameras.
All right.
How do I'm not at my camera's not coming back.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
Uh-oh.
Well, there you go. Murphy is hit.
Oh, there we go.
Is hit. All right, so let's talk about NRF. Jeff, are you able to talk now? It still says you're on and off. Okay. Well, I guess we'll do
Jeff.
Jeff.
I had to turn my camera on and off for it to reset. I don't know if that helps you.
Why don't you leave stage and come back on, Jeff? The far right button at the bottom, leave stage and come back on. Sorry about this, everybody. Welcome.
Hey,
It'll be working.
All right, here he is.
There you go, Jeff.
You're up. Technology.
Greg, never work with cute kids or live data on stage, and never take us off stage, okay?
Yeah, once you're on, don't take you off.
Holy smokes. Anyway, NRF overview. It's always funny, Greg. I'm sure you get it too. It's like, oh, is NRF worth the investment? I mean, 40,000 people there. There's no question. That is the number one retail tech show, number one show, and this year was absolutely no exception. All of us here on the at least all three of us were back in 2021, and just the difference in 3 or 4 years, it's just amazing. Certainly the highlight was Retail Orphanage Super Saturday. I think we had a sellout crowd. Almost $400,000 raised. Phenomenal event. Thank you, Microsoft, for beautiful offices right in Midtown. Couldn't be more convenient. I think another big highlight for me, and I think you were all there for the Rethink Retail AI Summit, which was really, really good. I mean, the evolution of that particular event over the last couple of years is just phenomenal. I mean, absolutely solid discussion around AI, a lot of really good real world examples, and then the party afterwards. I think I might have been the last one out the door. They literally were were tossing me and about 2 or 3 other guys talking. But you'd be proud of us, Greg. We were talking about a couple of charities in Egypt as they literally were just saying, please leave. So definitely,
I was out by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, you were for a fact. So when you're looking at ways to invest in NRF, that's certainly an event to take a look at. Something else, Shop for a Cause. That was a what'd you call it, Greg? A promotion that it was part of Retail Earth Initiative. Manhattan Associates had 150 shoppers show up at their booth because of that promotional event, and so the retailers that went there, thank you very much. Big kudos for that successful promotion. The startup, I can't even begin to break down the startup community. It's down there. It's expanding. The lower floor is growing. Food service zone. I mean, you could have been an analyst to cover just that piece. So I think that the easiest takeaway, and we're going to get into that in the ongoing conversation, is innovation is accelerating in retail, as evidenced by the explosion of the startup community. Loss prevention, making a major play at NRF. 3 or 4 years ago, we really didn't even address that. I'm from California. I can certainly attest to the need for loss prevention. Happy to say that we're actually making some very, very big gains out here. I think some of it driven by technology, some of it driven by other factors, and then computer vision. And Jerry has some phenomenal examples on that. So when you look at that show, clearly the call out is the massive acceleration of innovation in the retail industry. We're at the center, definitely when we get to the AI conversation. So if you're a retailer and you're not thinking about all these key bullet points, boy, now is the appointed hour, because innovation's coming fast and furious.
All right, Jerry, you're up. You can.
Sounds great. Thanks. So I'm going to run through this probably pretty quick. First big takeaway was, if anybody showed up Sunday morning, it was really weird because Sunday morning at 11 a.m. felt like Monday morning at 10 a.m. for those of us, again, with 21 being an aberration. But, for those of us that have been going to these for a while, we all know how crowded it is first thing on Monday morning. But really, really strong event. I think, as Jeff mentioned, we heard numbers anywhere around 44,000 attendees. Now we're pushing close to 1,000 booths. Again, certainly highlighted by some of those new startup areas, the innovation zone, the food service zone that they've added. So real kudos to NRF and how really they're improving and expanding the show. I write our order management report. Had a great opportunity to visit with about 10 of the order management vendors. I'm not going to read through every one of these points. There are a couple things I do want to highlight. We're going to drain Agents AI ML when we talk through this deck. But if you have not taken the time to go to the Salesforce, their website, and look at their Agentic AI demo with Saks, please do that. Not right now. Wait till we finish. But you really need to go do that. It will blow your mind. It was fantastic. Had a chance. We got to spend about an hour at the IBM booth. They had their analyst breakfast. Fantastic stuff in supply chain, order management. Again, true agentic AI, not agents, but agentic AI. Some real innovative stuff that we're seeing there. And one other point I'd like to call out for my order management visits was Corber. Corber was the order management assets were acquired a couple of years ago. And one of the things that they've done now is they brought in new leadership to head the order management product. And I can't drop the number because it was shared in private, but they've gone to, I think they're owned by KKR and Corber, and they've gone to the leadership there and secured a lot of zeros to really invest in the order management product. So I'm expecting really big improvements in the Corber order management product over the coming year. I do our IT spend model. We've done that for close to 20 years. I would say we still follow an 80-20 rule. 80% is kind of keeping the lights on, 20% innovation. One of the things that we saw last year, really in a big way, was that 20%. A lot of that went to data cleansing, data refinement, and artificial intelligence. And while that 20% is going to see a lot of that AI activity again this year, I think one of the things that we're also going to see is some of your traditional technology advancement projects are going to start getting a little bit more of that 20% than they maybe did last year. So kind of a more back to your 21, 22, 23 sort of behaviors, where some of the non-AI stuff will I think going to be absolutely elevated. Had a really neat conversation again as part of the Rethink Retail group. Recorded a podcast with Benjamin Bond of Simbi Robotics, actually a client that we've done some work with in the past. And that podcast is forthcoming, but just want to highlight in-store robotics. I was really blown away. And I think as we talk about agentic AI, you really have an example of agentic AI interacting and coming to the store in a real tangible way. They have 4 tier 1 clients, I believe, using that product. And he said that their booth was absolutely swamped. So we're actually thinking of doing a sponsored research piece this year on in-store robotics, just because we think that it is really real. For 25, we think we're going to see really strong IT spend. Things were a little shifted last year, but between revenue growth and just continued emphasis around innovation, and also an expectation in the last half of the year of consumer outlook improving in a big way, we really think going to have a strong year in IT spend. So more information from that later. Some of the really, really cool things that I saw was a demo at the Fujitsu booth where they're using the NVIDIA Jetson AGX in a self-checkout setup. So what they've taken is a device. It's really, really small, probably about 3 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches. And this thing can run about 275 tops. So in AI language, a top is trillions of floating point operations per second. Just know, if you don't know what that means, it is fast. It is really, really fast. Microsoft, for their Copilot to work on your PC, they require 30 tops. So this little device for about $1,000 is really intended to target the IoT space. And what Fujitsu is doing is they had a couple of off-the-shelf USB cameras. They had this Jetson device loaded with 35,000 single product images, and they were demonstrating this as a self-checkout concept. So not that this is necessarily going to scale in a big way, but what I think it really means is an opportunity for IoT in a really, really big way to scale in the store over the coming year, because you can do so much image processing so quickly and so economically feasible. So I really think we're going to have a big opportunity for that to explode. And then one of the other really cool things that I wanted to bring to your attention was TCS and their Omni Control Tower solution. This is part of their Omni Store POS solution family. And what they actually demonstrated is about 4 or 5 real off-the-shelf AI concepts that you can apply to your store today. Quick ROI, and just, I think it's great, because we often think about, oh, if I'm going to apply AI, I have to go do all these things with my data. Here's some real off-the-shelf, don't really have to do much with your data sort of opportunities to begin investing in AI. So I wanted to call that out. And also, not allowed to share the account, but they also won a super tier 1 a win for their point of sale products. So really, really scaled that product in a big, big way. So with that, I will pass it over to Lee.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks, Jerry. RFID, last year when we were talking about this, we were talking in terms of it being on the cusp of being mainstream. Well, it's certainly gotten past that. It's mainstream in a big way, and those retailers that are embracing it at the item level are finding that that's becoming table stakes for them. We've got, revolutionizing the operations, enhancing the customer experience. These are the 2 big things that RFID is bringing to bear in here. When it comes to retail and hospitality, you're looking at in retail, especially the mandates from Walmart and Target and Macy's and people like that. These date back to the early 2000s. These are the things that have really driven innovation for the past 20 years. The retailers that have embraced it in a big way, they're seeing their inventory accuracies rise from the low to mid 60% range up to the mid 90% range. That's huge. And when it comes to out of stocks, you're seeing them cut in half. I mean, that's really remarkable when you consider that it's this technology and implementation, so forth. In hospitality, you're talking about touchless check-in, which is wonderful when I go to Vegas and there's 30 people standing in line to check in. You're also talking about keyless entry to your rooms. You're talking about deeply personal experiences in resorts and in theme parks and so forth. RFID adoption continues to grow in a big way. And part of that has to do with the fact that costs associated with it are declining so rapidly and capabilities are increasing so rapidly. When it comes to RFID tags, it's not just the Walmarts and Macy's and Targets that are embracing this. Lululemon, Zara, H&M, some of these apparel retailers are embracing this in a big way, and they're reaping great benefits. Kroger of all people has embraced it for their bakery products, and they're looking to expand that throughout the stores, so that you can watch for that. Some of the developments are better read ranges, so it's not a matter of inches anymore, it's feet and yards and so forth. I mentioned before, item level tagging, it is table stakes for some retailers. We're moving down to the bullet point for digital product passport. This is a mandate done by the EU. It's been in the works for a handful of years. It's coming in 2027, and there's some confusion about it. Basically, I'll put it this way: the working analogy that I have, and this is a work in progress, is back in the mid 60s when my parents took us to Europe. To go from France to Germany, you had to go through a checkpoint. All right. And in order to go through the checkpoint, you had to have your papers. You put whatever connotation on that you want. But in our case, it was a U.S. passport. Passport identified me by name, my height, my weight, my hair and eye color, and all that kind of stuff. Also, where I was born and what country I was a citizen of. If you look at the digital product passport as that passport, then you can look at GS1 as being the vehicle that allows you to go through the checkpoint. Okay, so the digital product passport is simply data that's tacked onto an existing tag or a brand new tag that allows the reading, and that data goes with the product. Beyond that, edge computing and legacy POS. When you're talking about having virtualization present there in the store at the edge, when you're talking about increased computational characteristics, centralized processing and so forth, you're looking at a situation where retailers are not having to upgrade their POS hardware quite as often as they might have in the past. In this case, they can hold on to their existing hardware while continuing to enhance the customer experience, enhance their productivity and so forth, and hold on to the hardware a little longer than the manufacturers wish they would. Moving forward from there, food service innovation zone, Jeff mentioned part of this. Yeah, you could do an entire session just on what was in there. This is the second year that they've done this. It's about half again the size of last year. They should have done this 20 years ago, because the entire rest of the industry looks at retail and restaurants in pretty much the same vein in terms of the technology and the systems that are used. Three main topics that I pulled away from there. Number one is automation. Number two is connected kitchens. Number three is supply chain tracking. Automation, it's not just Flippy anymore. Okay, they've got a pizza robot. All right. And I have to confess, I'm a mechanical engineer by degree. So I stood there watching this thing for minutes, just watching it put the sauce on, the cheese and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, you could make this, feed it straight into the oven. You could do this, so pretty cool stuff. They also had a fry maker. And the cool thing was they tied in some self-service kiosks so you could actually order the food from these devices. And I never did, because there was always a long line of people waiting to get the free pizza and fries and so forth. Connected kitchens, you're talking about environmental type stuff that's going on there. A lot of equipment health monitoring, food safety, that's a big deal. And I'll talk about that in just a bit. And also energy optimization for what's going on in the kitchen. Finally, supply chain tracking as it's used here. A lot of tech innovations here, AI, IoT, RFID, and all so forth and so on. You're going to hear a buzzword that pops up more and more in the coming months. It's called CTE, which stands for Critical Tracking Events. And this is tied to the FDA has mandated what's called FSMA, that's Food Safety Modernization Act. In January 1st of 2026, it's coming down the pike. And basically, what they've got is a list of products, and for the most part, they're everything that you find in the produce department in a grocery store, plus shellfish, plus fin fish. I never heard that term before, fin fish. I always called it fish. But products like that, and being able to track their health through the entire supply chain to the retailer. So the idea being you can have devices installed that track the temperature, humidity, and all that kind of stuff, and be able to review that remotely throughout the entire supply chain. So that's kind of cool stuff coming down the pike. And with that, let me toss it back over the fence.
All right. So now we're just going to go into a few topics and go in detail. So lots of presentation, so to speak, self-checkout, use of computer vision there. MassGen was the first one to do that. They're rolled out in a lot of different places. We saw NCR Voyix had Halo there, where you can take existing checkout lanes and customize them or have their own platform. And then Toshiba showed the MXP Vision kiosks there. What do you guys? You got the little thing from Toshiba. That's a little stress. I've got mine over here somewhere. The little stress ball, so to speak, with that. So what do you guys think of this technology? What's your thought on this? Have you used it at stadiums and venues and convenience stores and stuff?
I know for me, I go to Orlando City soccer games, and they have somewhat of a similar technology. And obviously the big break is halftime, like at a football game. So you just zip through the lines with this type technology. It's a no-brainer, and especially in the hospitality space.
Yeah, when you're talking about a soccer match where halftime is maybe 15, 20 minutes long, and essentially 80% of the people in the stands want to go out and either go to the bathroom or order food or something like that, this kind of technology is going to help that in a big way.
Having been to the national championship game last week in Atlanta, best concession stands in the world, best concession stand pricing, worst bathroom situation I've seen anywhere in the stadium there. So anyway, I digress.
First world problem.
Yeah.
How many more Ohio State references do you think we're going to get the rest of the next half hour?
The over-under on that.
I took the jersey off of that. Okay. Anything else on self-checkout specifically? All right. Related, computer vision and IoT. It was everywhere at this show, and in every possible combination there. You had the self-checkout piece, which you have ever seen there. AWS was showing stuff. Sony, Sunmi, Ultron AI has a retail specific model that's really cool. And then just loss prevention overall, loss prevention in the lane. So not only those vendors we talked about, but StrataVision was another one that popped up that I met with, seeing some significant results in reduction. A little bit different with StrataVision. They take more of a privacy approach for things there, shading everybody's faces, et cetera. It's more driven by European requirements there. And then you've got the inventory side. The inventory robotics computer vision with Simbe and Brainco and others, whether it's shelf or whether it's actually robotics things, but the computer vision imaging is huge. And then IoT of everything. I mean, everything's got a digital signal processor there. We're combining loss prevention tags with different IoT technologies there as well, pedestals being enhanced. And one of the other players that supported retail ROI was SmartSense by Digi. They've got a new tag here. I've got one of those, and I got to go on and track it now as I've gone through and taken it with me in different places and different temperatures. It actually tells you the temperature. So it's not only a loss prevention in the supply chain, it actually tells you whether items such as medicines or produce that are not supposed to be below a particular, or frozen goods, higher or lower than a particular temperature, whether or not that happened when it was going through. And that can be done on the pallet level, or it can be done on the item level when you're talking about blood or you're talking about medical things. So it's a really, really cool technology that they've developed there. So what about you guys in this area?
I mean, the SmartSense thing, I talked to those guys for a bit, and the thing I thought was the coolest part was, on a trip from Boston to New York, the device has GPS and all and cellular built into it, and it'll hop, antenna to antenna all the way down, so it hops from one carrier to another to provide that constant data stream. Love that.
Yeah, something on that space that's worth paying attention to is a new term maybe for some folks called geospatial technology, and that's plotting all these devices on a GIS platform. Esri's doing some real interesting stuff there. I thought was phenomenal. They're down to the term they're using is geocoding, where you actually go down to the lat and longitude coordinates and not just addresses. So, for example, routing in San Francisco, which I know quite well, there are streets you literally can't go. The map looks like it's okay, but from the lat longe that it's like Chinatown's an example. So the sophistication that we're at right now with IoT is just, remember 3 years ago, we were speculating this. Now it's here. We are down to, don't go down to this street because it's 2 feet too short for the truck, or send a different truck in. Unbelievable sophistication we're at right now.
Yep. So one other one, Scan and Go Technologies. Albertsons is now doing it. Now the merger is off. They're doing scan and pay types of things similar to Scan and Go in California and Texas. We're starting to see this. It's funny, these slides, apparently it doesn't like the fonts. They're all changed once it comes up as a PDF. There, but grocery, convenience, and different venues continue to be the sweet spot for scan and go, just walk out type technology. Other segments are now seeing similar approaches by combining RFID and computer vision technologies with EAS tags there, and extremely strong results for those people. So the sales winners, which are the guys that grew their business 10% or more in sales in 2024, are 22 times more likely to already be using just some sort of just walk out or scan and go technology. And they're 9 times more likely to be investing in 2025. Anything there, guys?
I'd just say continue to be really bullish on this. The labor problem is not going away. The labor is what it is, and that's not coming back. So any of these technologies that fundamentally help address the labor issue and the labor shortfall are going to continue to be really strong for the coming years.
Yeah, particularly since the unions have not been fighting back specifically on these technologies, most recently because of the shortage in labor that retailers are facing. So that's a big deal.
All
right.
It's also,
I'm sorry, go back.
It's also not just labor shortage. It's the cost of labor. I mean, if you look at California, I think we're over $20 an hour for minimum wage,
right,
in some industries. I mean, it's how can you drive that? And that's obviously going to drive far much more innovation or automation anywhere possible. So that trend's not going to go away either.
I think there were a record number of ESL vendors at NRF this year. I mean, I think that just sort of reinforces the point that, hey, labor's a problem universally.
Lots of enhancements, color, video, all those things on ESLs. Yep. All right. So we tried last minute to try to do sponsors. We didn't get one for this event. So I'm going to be the sponsor. IHL is going to be the sponsor of our own webinar here. I want to tell you about ClearSight AI. This is our new service that we're offering to companies to help them get their act together with AI. So just the background of things, no two companies are the same. Every company's different. They have different states of data readiness, different levels of skills, but everybody has their special sauce in retail. Everybody's different there in retail. And yet the CEOs always and the board are always asking, what are we doing with AI? What's it going to cost us? When can we see results? Where do we stick our flag in the ground for things when you've got something moving so fast? And people have tried it. A lot of people are trying AI, and most of them are failing with it. 80% of all AI projects are failing right now, and less than 30% move past pilot, according to Gartner today. So that is the genesis and why we started ClearSight AI. It's a process to help companies identify these issues before you start them so that you can better ensure success. It's similar stuff that you see some of the large consultancies doing, but we would be at a fraction of the cost. Or to put it in this week's term, where they are OpenAI, we are Deepseek when it comes to the cost differential there for this. So yeah, throw that out there before we talk about Deepseek overall. So what are we doing here? We're actually walking people through through interviews and interviewing the staff and the people in the things. Number one, so we've identified 400 use cases in retail, 75 parent use cases, 400 underneath, thanks to Andy Lodato and John Stein and Vicki Cantrell, among others that have helped us round out that list of use cases. But the first step, is it legal for us to use this data in this way? That's number one. Do we have enough data? Is it clean? Is it accurate? Is it vector ready? Because you have to have it in a format that AI can understand and use there. And then are our systems ready to deal with that data when it's done? It's one thing to get conclusions, but if you can't do anything with it, it's kind of just throwing a report over a wall and say, hey, this is what you should do. But if your systems can't automatically make those changes, like a price change or an assortment change, you're kind of just throwing good money after bad because your systems are not ready to do that. The people piece of it is huge. The culture side of it is very, very big here. But do you have the skills internally or not? Does this increase risk or does it decrease risk for the company? Is it of strategic value and is it of financial value? Because of our forecasting and our IT sizing model and our AI model, we have an external view that we can bring to the table that says these use cases we believe can drive the highest dollar value. Now, how does that fit with what you're dealing with inside? And we're the only people that I know in the industry that can offer that kind of functionality. So what we do is we interview the teams and we get their ratings on all of these use cases as to whether or not where they are with those hurdles. And once again, over 400 use cases that we have today, and you're looking for greens across the board. But a key part of that is the data enablers. You need to be able to identify gaps. Where do you have gaps, and what data do you use for all of your systems? You've got data that's customer data, you've got sentiment data, you've got product data, item data, inventory data, personnel data, etc. So the data enablers allows you to quantify that if you fix those data pieces, it would unleash this much potential value by leveraging AI on that particular item there. And then we run it through. And so what you end up with is basically a 3D matrix of where you have the best opportunities to drive and best use cases to drive value and max value there. So the size of the circle represents the amount of value there. You see the strategic importance and the data readiness related to where you are on the actual matrix itself. And then we bring everybody back into a room and say, hey, we've got your top 20 projects, and these are the biggest value, but which are the ones that are most important? Which are the ones where we can get quick wins, that we can show viability so we can get some momentum, like Dave Ramsey would call it the debt snowball approach there. And that's what the weighted shortest job first methodology brings into it. So this is a fixed project that gets you to a point of having a plan there. And then if you want us to go further in terms of implementing and helping you implement that plan, we can do that at that point. So that's what ClearSight is. So that's the end of the commercial, but it is the lead in to talk about agents and buzzword bingo. The number one, well, maybe Jerry said it was number 3.
They were pretty close, though. I mean, that's almost a photo finish there.
But I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. Let's talk about agentic. Jerry, this was your statement. It'll cause even wider divide between the haves and the have-nots.
Right. I mean, I think as we've been talking about AI, we've sort of phrased that as a Gutenberg moment, where those that are well positioned with their data well positioned, as you just talked about with the ClearSight product, then they really can take advantage of some of these artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities. But agentic AI is that next step. So okay, now you're great. You know, you can take advantage of AI. But agentic AI is a layer on top of that, which again just acts to further spread out the field of capabilities. So those that are in a great shape with their AI will likely be able to, take in some of the benefits from agentic AI. But if you're not, if you're still trying to get your data together to incorporate some AI capability, then you're kind of on the sidelines watching and hoping. But your competition, they've entered turn 3 and about to head around to turn 4 there. So I think it's a call to action based upon where your strategy lies.
Yeah, I found there was a lot of shrewd marketing, people calling things agents that were really traffic cops to other chatbots, to specific things. So when I think of agentic AI, I think the best definition there, it literally is taking actions across systems. It's actually doing things, not just pointing to where you can find the answer. Those are glorified search engines there, but you have access to those systems and they can be trained very fine. But the agentic piece is actually the engaging and doing things. It's like, make me the reservation or the plane reservation. It goes off and does that. I want to, if you're in a customer support agent, so to speak, you want to return an item. It not only finds your order, it says you're returning it, sends you the shipping label for that as part of that process. That's agentic. But we saw a lot of shrewd marketing where I found that this was like the Gen AI last year, where there was a lot of smoke and mirrors. The agent talk was kind of a way of saying, hey, we were agentic. And we saw a few that were really fantastic there, but most of them were, like I said, traffic cops, glorified traffic cops there. Anything else here, guys?
Yeah, the one thing that occurs to me is the conversation we were having after Super Saturday, where the comment was made that there's this talk about agentic AI and all that kind of stuff, and yet half of the people that were in the audience are still using Excel for their data. Right. So I mean, yeah, you've got to get your data cleaned up, but you also have to have it in a place where the conversation about agentic actually makes sense. Most of them aren't there yet.
Right. That was a great panel. Wow. Well, I got to be careful. Other than myself on the panel, that was a great panel. Glenn and John were fantastic.
Yeah, there was a great line there, a really great line.
We're not allowed to share that line.
I know, it's a shame. It's great.
That was John Harding's line was perfect for that. All right, so we all, and Jeff, I don't know if you saw this, but all the IHL guys saw this, and this was impressive. The AWS Agentic AI demo was fabulous. I'll let one of you guys talk about it. Jerry Lee.
Go for it, Jerry.
Okay, yeah. So we were tasked with creating a new drill. So we got to define who our target audience was. We got to define what's a couple of the attributes that we wanted to focus in our product. And literally what the tool was able to do, it was design the product. It designed the specifications for that product. It created a marketing plan targeted to who our target audience was. I think it created a website with the product page, with all the copy, the attributes, the feature functionalities. It was that social ads, posts, etc. It was absolutely amazing. So you sit there and you made, I think, 3 or 4 selections. And after you made those 3 or 4 selections, it goes off, the crank turns, and in less than a minute, all this rich content was generated right there for you. And again, like Lee, I am a mechanical engineer, so I was able to use this tool to define and create a really cool drill that any IT professional would just be proud to own.
I think that the thing to keep in mind is these were not pre-baked scenarios that they just pulled from. This was us telling the system what we wanted. Okay, so it wasn't a matter of, well, you can select from these 4 or 5 things. No. We told it what we wanted, and I guess one of the main comments was, well, I want more power. So
Exactly.
hit the tool man kind of thing. So this was a really impressive demonstration.
Well, I think the thing, I mean, we've internally at IHL, we've actually used AI, and where we've had some labor shortfalls, and it's just, if you can find the right tool for the job, it is fantastic. And as I step back from this demo, I'm like, okay, I'm not an expert in any of those specific steps that it generated, but I'm like, man, you probably in 1 minute, you probably helped offset 200 to 300 hours worth of labor, just like that. The ROI is huge.
Yeah. And I know we're going to go past the top of the hour, everybody. So I wanted to share the slides now for you guys. They're in the handouts, but we're going to keep going and answer questions. We'll go past the top of the hour here for that. Microsoft had tons of agents. They have made it extremely simple to create agents there that are based off your SharePoint sites and directories internally. I mean, you can literally just say, hey, I've got an invoice agent, and point to everything in the invoices. You can point to the proposals, create different agents there based on your directories there. Once again, that is it's in at the top level, unless you do some underlying program there, it's more of a point and shoot, and hey, how do I leverage that data? But I mean, it's been phenomenal for me in terms of leveraging Copilot 365. I think that's what it's called now. They keep changing the name on me, Ricardo. I don't know why you guys do that, but it keeps changing the name. But just to be able to create drafts of PowerPoint decks off of documents and the other way around is really, really impressive. To be able to put an outline in there and get a first draft in seconds. That is protected, it's our data, it's secure, that sort of thing has really been huge for me, and that's been a big thing. So Microsoft, Salesforce, your big guys are the guys that are pushing this and doing well. One that's much smaller was part of the Zebra booth is the Crave retail one. This was really fascinating. It's basically leveraging RFID and AI powered fitting rooms. When you put the item on the shelf, a smart digital assistant comes up on the screen to where you could order a different size, a different color. You can have it brought to the dressing room for you there. And it provides a lot of different data there, showing some really significant results in upsell and accessory sell, literally from the dressing room there. That was a really cool demo that I saw personally there. So let's talk about loss prevention and where we are today. I love this quote that was there that the Walgreens CEO shared, I think at NRF in a session or whatever. Who would have thought?
Shocker.
And then I saw this other statistic there, 52% increase in 20 to 21 in shrink. And that was overall nationwide. In California alone, in San Francisco, they claimed at Apex, that loss prevention conference, they were losing 10% of same store sales after spending 40 times more on physical security than you spent anywhere else in the country there. And it kind of puts you in a death spiral as a retailer if you don't have a way of providing the products when the customers want to buy them in your store. So we got this little graphic here that we had a couple years ago on Amazon Prime and Prime members and what they're experiencing from out of stocks or things being locked up there. But Lee, you mentioned a really cool solution from InView that you saw.
Oh, let's see. One of we are unabashed fans of Scan and Go at Sam's Club, and the reason it works so well is because you have a membership, and your card, your face, your address, all that kind of stuff is tied to the membership. It's tied to the card. It's tied to the app. Well, when retailers have chosen to lock things up and experience the kind of things that Walgreens is, you still have customers that are loyal to you. So what do you do about that? Well, InView has a solution of basically, and there's another company, and I wish I could remember the name of them, but Indime. They've got a solution where basically the permission to unlock a locked cabinet is granted to the loyal customers. So you might have in this case they had hats, baseball caps that were locked in a cabinet. You can either use your smartphone or a digital key that they give you, wave it in front of the sensor, that the cabinet will open up. You can take the hat out and close the thing. So a member who is loyal and has that ability can open the cabinets. One that is not loyal, does not have that capability, can't open the cabinets. So that helps solve that part of the problem there.
Yeah, well, we've got that multi talk about all different types of things that can improve things. Some other things, loss prevention. I love the Sensormatic RFID backpack example. So they had a couple things. Once they had a partnership with Ineo for the advertising at the loss prevention pedestal. But one of the things I heard from somebody, and I don't even remember who I heard it from, went to Macy's and said, "Hey, do you know you got a new store in Brooklyn? It's under a barber shop." Apparently they went in with one of these backpacks and they inventoried the entire store, and they're going into Chinatown and other place. But there was the entire store was stolen Macy material underneath and being run as an e-commerce site underneath a barbershop in Brooklyn there. We mentioned the Walgreens shrink there. One of the goals, and this isn't necessarily related to loss prevention. I should have put it in the IoT slide. Zebra came out with a new device that I just absolutely love here. It's an Android phone that also has RFID, NFC payment. It has a little scanner. And so it can take payments, it can do inventory, it can do all the things you need to do and still act as your regular phone. It looks like it's smaller than an iPhone Pro Max, the whatever 16 Pro Max that's out there right now. They just replaced two of the cameras with the NFC and the RFID. And this doesn't even have it on the chip. The Qualcomm guys told me this isn't even on the chip yet. So they'll be able to do this in even smaller form factor when RFID and NFC go to the chip itself there. Digital twins. I know, Lee, you presented this just really quickly. Digital twins, there is a huge differential. The winners are using digital twin and investing in digital twins at a huge level. It is really a clear separator now. Lowe's got 1,700 stores that are digital twins. Walmart's partnership with NVIDIA was announced. They've got 700 plus stores there. Overall, this is huge. But I wanted to jump to our last topics in here. Oh, before I say that, you're going to see data in here related to this retail in flux, and this is where your sales winners, etc. That is actually a study that is available. This is the one we do with we used to do with RIS News. Now we're doing it with Chain Store Age. That is the only study that we offer where we give you the raw data and you can run your own crosstabs. We've already identified over 150 different stories that we can send to you based on our own analysis for social media content across all of these different technologies. I want to say we've got 30 or 40 different technologies that we studied in terms of what people were going to buy, when they were going to buy it, when are they going to upgrade what's their views with AI, where are they getting benefits from AI, etc. When you see us present throughout the year, we're leveraging data from this study all year long, but you can actually get that study on our website today. So that brings us to the piece that you guys probably have already, I'm going to leave this here for the sake of this, but really quickly. Jumpmind and GK, huge wins at DTLR, Show Palace. Their GK continues to drive wins there. Zebra had a great Target demo in their stuff. Walmart and IBM are working on last mile delivery partnerships. So basically what that means, if you're a Sterling customer, you get access to Sterling Commerce customer, you get access to Walmart's delivery infrastructure for that if you choose to do that for next day delivery. I love the Chick-fil-A one. They're saving 10,000 hours per day with lemon squeezing robots there, which is just an astounding number. It looks like we've got a repeat here on the Walmart.
And that was really important on Walmart and IBM and their OMS partnership there.
Yeah. So L'Oreal is now got an IBM and NVIDIA partnership when it comes to product discovery and finding new makeup and new designs there. Tapestry said they saw a 3 to 5% increase in sales with AI for e-commerce doing personalization, as well as a 40% reduction in code. And then Wendy's and Taco Bell have rolled out AI drive-through. Wendy's is probably the one that's getting more press right now. They claim 22 seconds per order savings by using AI for the order, which is really, really impressive results there. So I didn't want to shortchange that. But everybody wants to know about Deepseek. Everybody's thing. I think this Mark Andreessen quote was wonderful. It is the Sputnik moment. I know we all have opinions on this. Guys, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, first, let's make sure everyone understands what that means. So Mark Andreessen's clearly top tier one Silicon Valley VC out here, cutting edge on almost everything. What he's saying here, if you remember, and the rocket scientists on the call could probably do a better job, but Sputnik was the Russians during the peak of the Cold War launched a Sputnik, and it absolutely panicked everyone in intelligence and in the military. And what that did is that launched NASA to the top of the charts, drove spending, drove innovation, and 10 years later we were standing on the moon.
Yep.
So what Mark is saying here is he's saying it's time that we need to invest aggressively and innovate. And the thing I love about this as much as anything is one of Mark's running mates is David Sachs, who is another VC, one of the PayPal Mafia kids, now is the AI czar for the new administration. And so I think that says everything you need to know about how rapidly we're going to invest, how rapidly we're going to innovate, and retailers need to be ready because we're going to be rock and rolling very, very aggressively.
So Jerry, jump in. You and I have had several conversations.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a massive moment, I think. And my youngest son is a senior in computer science. I had a great conversation with him about it. I went down to talk with him yesterday.
He's just not a senior in computer science. He's the guy that told Target that they had an open API.
Well, yeah, that too. But I went down to talk with him yesterday when he had the Deepseek paper up and he was reviewing their published paper. So I was talking with him about it, and he really confirmed that what they have done is novel because they've basically taken the reinforcement model approach where they train the model, they reward it when it does good, they take points away when it does bad. So I said, hey, is this really a unique moment? He goes, yeah, they really have taken a novel approach. He said it's quite possible that OpenAI has done the same thing already. They just haven't published a report on it. And so it really is a novel approach. I think the thing that you have to be careful on, and I think it might be on the next slide, the reports that it only spent $6 million doing it, I think there's a lot of fine print there that we really need to be careful of. When you look at a model of that complexity with the number of parameters that they talk about, you have to throw a lot of CPU horsepower at that. So, you know, I'd have to have a lot of understanding of where that $6 million comes from, and what they're paying for compute in China is probably not what we pay for compute over here. So, but I think the big thing it really does is I think it begins to democratize even more these concept of foundation models, and I think that's a good thing for everybody. And I think it does take and inject some testosterone into, you know, some innovative approaches that we're taking. And I'm just excited to see kind of what's happening. If you go look at all the key tech players, everybody's chimed in pretty hard, and I expect to see a pretty hard pivot in at least, you know, in a way to counter this from our friends at OpenAI. And I will say I'm a big Perplexity fan. You can play with Deepseek AI. You can Deepseek R1. You can play with that on Perplexity if you have a pro account. So encourage you to do it, but wait till this webinar is over before you play with it.
Yeah, there's this BBC article
not on my phone. You're not.
Yeah, BBC article that I've linked is really good insight. They say the company that developed it had up to 50,000 of the A1 Hopper chips, which is the same thing that trained our O1 on OpenAI, but they claim they only use 2,000 of them.
Oh, I don't. Who believes that?
Yeah, well, you know, we always joke. Always joke as analysts. There's lies, damn lies, statistics, government statistics, and Chinese government statistics.
And I'm 30 years old too.
Quite that far, but I'll make reference to Duncan's comment in the chat there, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there is the guy.
The chat is fire for sure.
The CEO from Anduril. There's a really good things out there. Brad Gerstner said yesterday. Unfortunately, you know, the press took its, you know, hook, line, and sinker here. There's some great ideas here, but he thinks that the real cost differential is not that much. And this is about a year ago when OpenAI actually had this model trained and released there for stuff. So it's impressive what they've done. But yeah, you need to be careful.
For those of you guys that are not super familiar with how models are trained, again, you go back and look at what Deepseek did. They used a Chinese foundational model, and I believe the Llama model as sort of a starting point. So, you know, when OpenAI goes from 3.1 to 3.2, they don't start from scratch at 3.2. They use 3.1 as a basis, and they add to that. So, you know, I'm going to agree with Greg here. Is I think, yeah, they've probably done it cheaper. Yes, it is innovative. Is it about to change the world as we know it? No. Is it as much of a Gutenberg moment as ChatGPT? Absolutely not, in my opinion.
But
it's a Sputnik moment, Jerry. That's the difference with you.
That's a race moment. It's a race moment.
It is, and absolutely, I don't disagree with that.
And it's a design which is more enterprise friendly, which I think is going to drive thought differential. Instead of having this giant model that has the entire internet on it, let's have the core piece that you can add your enterprise data to. And that core piece becomes your engine. You don't need to know how to do a haiku and leverage Shakespeare to do haikus. You don't need to know everything. Like, for instance, the guy that did a demo, he says, it doesn't have 10 years ago what Netflix did. It's not in there. It's not trained on that. It's not part of that because you don't need it. What you need is this core. And I think that is the biggest thing to come out of this is, other than the race piece of it and the fact that, you know, what do we need with AI? We need something that can generate things much faster, but in our own data. And that thought process, I'm not sure the major model makers were doing prior to this Deepseek. And I think that's a big win. That's going to democratize AI and push it down to more companies faster.
Well, I think it's who's your target audience. I mean, you go look at ChatGPT and their target audience is everybody. And again, to Duncan's point here in the chat, it's a focus model. So you're going after a particular industry focus with this. So again, where I'd read some stuff 6-8 months ago that we may kind of tap out on these large foundational models that ingest everything, and the industry might migrate more towards some of these small language models where we're training these models around a more refined data set to solve a more refined particular issue. And I think that's a little bit of also what we're seeing here again, because when you go look at the number of parameters that Deepseek looks to address, way less than your open AIs of the world.
Yeah. So Lee, you want to jump in here? I'm sure you got it on all your devices, right?
Well, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm the trailing edge technology kind of guy. I mean, I can understand some of the leading edge stuff, but when it comes to my own personal stuff, I'd be happy with a DOS box,
All right, guys.
What kind of phone does Lee have?
Yeah,
I've got a 13.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
That's-
All right,
that's
so
cute,
we're
buddy.
up for Q&A, guys. We passed out all the handouts and all that sort of stuff. If you've got questions, fire them away. Lee, you've got some questions. I pinged you on a couple.
Okay, I'm going to skip the one on Deepseek because I think we're going to run that to death. Greg, how are tariffs going to impact IT spend?
Honestly, I don't think tariffs are going to impact IT spend much of anything. I think much of the tariff talk is a negotiation ploy. They're just to say, hey, how much do you want for this car? Okay, I'll give you 2 cents for it. Okay, well, that gives you an artificial middle from which to negotiate there. It's going to be more like the Colombia taking back illegals that committed crimes that were from Colombia. They weren't really to do that. Okay, well, we'll put 25% tariffs on everything out of Colombia, which is every flower right before Valentine's Day. Yeah, well, that kind of got fixed real quick. So I think the tariffs in a lot of ways are more negotiating things. I don't think it's going to have anything affect because the needs and the drive to say your competitors are going to drive the market, and the opportunity for improving your customer relations is going to drive the market on the IT side. I think the bigger issue is more the interest rates than it is any tariffs, so to speak. So if you've got high capital expenditures, the interest rates are the bigger concern I have than tariffs.
Okay. Speaking of large CapEx, are retailers well positioned at this point to make large CapEx purchases?
I'll let you guys jump in on one.
I think a lot of that's driven by interest rates. I think one of the things that we've seen last year is that there was, consumer sentiment and business sentiment aligned fairly closely, and there was a lot of hesitancy to pull the trigger on some large capital purchases. And I think we're going to see likely interest rates soften toward the end of the year. We've not seen any big pivots in the current administration affecting energy in a significant way, but I think that will likely materialize as the year progresses. And as we start to see interest rates soften a bit, I think companies are going to feel more comfortable making large CapEx purchases. So I think probably not so much now, but as middle into the year, way more so.
Jeff, you got anything?
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, interest rates, I'm paying very, very significant attention to those for some folks that are thinking about doing some investing. And yeah, Jerry, I'm not sure I'm as optimistic as you are. It really depends on the rate of inflation. I don't think the Fed's going to want to. I think the Fed's going to want to kill inflation. So fingers crossed on that one. Hope you're right. Well,
it's always been curious. I've always wondered how theoretically the Fed is truly decoupled from the administration, but I've often wondered how decoupled they really are. So
well, you got personal reputations on the line, and I don't think I don't think Powell wants to be the guy that let inflation get away from him. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just in and of itself, I think is going
Well,
to.
I mean, you go back and you look at, I think the true inflation numbers at like 2.3% that Greg showed earlier. I don't know how much more we're going to really drive down inflation. I think the problem is that the market basket of inflation is not uniformly applied. So you have housing is still very high, groceries are still very high, and that, for people that are living paycheck to paycheck, which is a much bigger percentage of the population than it used to be, that's still hitting them pretty hard right now. But your overall inflation numbers seem to be pretty modest, and based upon what I see from Trueflation.
Yeah, I think what's driving the inflation is insurance and repairs, auto transportation. Those are the two things. Your car insurance and your home insurance and cost of education are the key drivers of inflation right now. And eggs. Eggs are like the big thing in terms of groceries right now, driving up costs.
This one's for Jerry. Jerry, why is Agentic AI better than RPA, which is more mature with better tooling?
Well, again, RPA, my understanding of RPA, and correct me.
Can you give the definition of RPA? What is RPA? So everybody knows.
I believe it's robotic process automation.
Yes.
I think that's what RPA stands for. So, it's RPA is this. I believe it's designed for a specific task, whereas Agentic AI, you give it a range of skills. So sort of the RPA analogy is, I have a hammer and I only know how to use a hammer. But with Agentic AI, you have a toolbox and you can go say, hey, I have this problem. I need to replace the soffit in my house. And using the Agentic AI approach, the Agentic AI knows of that toolbox of 50 tools, which tool, which order, what supplemental materials it needs to solve that problem, even if it's never had to replace a soffit before. So I think that's the big difference.
Okay.
Greg and Jeff, will Scan and Go have an impact on POS and self-checkout growth?
Wow, that's a great question if I've ever heard one.
Not really. I think Scan and Go is going to be a membership oriented type of thing where your best customers have the ability to get in and out of your store the fastest. So it's a matter of how much you're willing to give up of your privacy to be able to do it. This becomes your personal device now that they have access to as well, to be able to do that. Now, I love it at Sam's. I mean, just absolutely love it. I love the just walk out technologies. I love those things there, but I don't think that's going to impact self-checkout or checkout necessarily. I think the bigger issues with self-checkout has been the computer vision and having models that are faster to run in real time there to find the crime piece of it. And then just that whole interest rate aspect of things and the capital expenditures of that. I think the bigger challenge with point of sale and that stuff is the move towards edge and serving up web pages type thing. That's a bigger threat than anything like Scan and Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about another Agentic AI? It seems it's new. It's in an infancy. Is the infrastructure in place to act on it? And are there real projects and investments in this area right now?
Who was that for?
Everybody.
Can you repeat it? I was looking at David's question and trying to.
Okay.
Where are we in adoption is the question.
Of what?
Agentic AI. And is infrastructure ready? And the answer is probably not. And
Not for most
okay.
people. No. And most people are still trying to get their data together and data in order. The companies that are really doing this and doing it well are your Amazon, Walmart, Tractor Supply is probably ahead of everybody. Tapestry. Those are the folks, the people that got religion in 2018 and realized they were in an IT IT war with Amazon, when their retail business went positive, those are the ones who are best positioned with their data to take advantage of generative AI. And that's the other thing. If you've been doing traditional AI ML and doing it well, Agentic AI on top of that is seeing incredible results. If you hadn't cleaned that data, I like to use the metaphor. It's NRF. Let's talk about New York City. I use the metaphor. Walmart, Tractor Supply, those guys. If the goal is to get to LaGuardia Airport, they're already through the tunnel, through the toll booth. They're on the highway. But the vast majority of folks are on 42nd Street between 8th and 9th, pre-congestion pricing, stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic.
Some of them have
Ouch.
chalk in their wheels for parking violations.
I've resembled that comment a few times. Not this time, though. I mean, got to say, it was much easier to move around the island.
That's funny.
Ouch. I mean, the call out, though, is, I mean, we say this every year, but it's just the delta is getting higher and higher and higher. So if you're not doing something, I mean, you just simply have to get moving, or it's really extinction level at this point.
Yeah,
300%.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Eric, and again, I'll toss it out to everybody. With computer vision, does that require more infrastructure on the edge or better networking to get the speed?
Yes. It's both. It's both.
It's not an either or.
Right.
Okay. Will you send the recording of the session?
Yes, that's all going out.
Okay.
That goes out to everybody.
We're going to clean out that red jersey out of that recording, though.
No, it's not going to happen. Sorry. I got a whole year now, man.
Fuzzy gray bar. We'll grade that out.
So everybody that registers for the event gets a link automatically from Demio that you can fast forward on there. Without that, you can share the other recording with everybody, and that has the whole thing on it, and they just register for it.
I get a question from David that I wanted to pick up if we can. David said, we see Salesforce and Shopify enter the POS market. What impact will that have on the legacy vendors? I want to take a crack at that one. I'm going to say yes and no in that order. So with Salesforce, it's going to have a huge impact with their acquisition of PredictSpring. If you go look at what they've done in the order management market, now they bought a kind of a tier 3, tier 4 order management solution and scaled that to be one of the market leading solutions. Huge success story. And I think PredictSpring is in a lot better shape than the order management solution that they acquired in the POS space. PredictSpring already has some pretty sizable clients. So I think that the PredictSpring acquisition is going to help them be even more disruptive. And the traditional POS vendors are going to have a really hard time with that. Now with Shopify, the challenge kind of with Shopify is that we monitor them from an e-commerce standpoint. They've tried to move up market, and to be honest with you, they've not really had last data that I've reviewed, they've not had a great success in really moving up market. So I suspect that Shopify in the POS space, they're going to continue to be an SMB play, and I don't see them as being particularly disruptive to our traditional POS players.
Okay.
All right, cool.
I'd agree with that.
Is that it, Lee?
That's what I got.
All right,
Wow.
Super, everybody. Thanks so much for taking an hour and 20 minutes of your time here to be with us. So it was like 67 of you that still hung around to the very end.
Yeah.
We're very thankful for you, so we appreciate it. The recording and everything will be done here shortly, as well as you've got the slides, the handouts, all that sort of stuff. We'll be in touch.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.